guys, what's up and welcome back to Call Your Friends. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Lauren.
Lauren's back this week, and we're talking all about university, college, whatever you want to call it. I think this is very timely because it's almost the end of the school year, and I know a lot of people are going off to college next year. So we thought it would be a great episode to talk about everything college related. I know Lauren has some questions, and I don't want to call myself an expert, but I have been to university and I survived. So I'm here to share some of my experience and knowledge, I guess you could say, and answer all of your questions. So I'm super excited, but Lauren and I haven't caught up in a while. So Lauren, what has been going on in your life since we last talked?
Yeah, it's been 2 or 3 weeks since we recorded together. So I feel like I definitely have some updates. I made some notes on what I've been doing. Honestly, it's mostly just been school and hanging out with my friends. So last weekend, it was my friend Madison. It was her birthday. Different Madison, not Maddie, Orlando. But it was one of my friend's 18th birthday, so we went to downtown Toronto for the weekend to celebrate. And it was a lot of fun. It was like 4 girls in a hotel room, and we were just, I don't know, we had some fun in Toronto. We hung out with some of her friends. And yeah, so that was pretty exciting. And then this week I went back to school. Our family went on tour, so this weekend I came home, but there's no one here. So I've just been hanging out, and last night I hung out with some friends. And I actually do have an interesting update from last night, and that is that promposals are starting to happen. And
Ooh.
I know. And my friend Jada got proposed to last night. We helped her boyfriend with the promposal because we're all close friends. But she is very into basketball. So he wanted to do a basketball themed promposal. And we made him a sign that says, "I'd rather not pass up the shot to score you." And then he was holding a basketball that said prom ? And
very cute.
yes, it was so cute. We helped him plan out the whole thing. He wanted us to make the sign because our handwriting was neater or something. But we were doing it very last minute, trying to get it done in time, trying to make sure that he made it to our friend's house before Jada, his girlfriend, did. And it was a very close call. But yeah, it ended up working out. And then I went to this party last night with a few more people, and another promposal happened. So I missed that one because I was in the bathroom or something, but it was also very cute. So I'm excited to see what other ones are coming. And yeah, I'll keep you guys updated if anything crazy happens.
So I'm sure everyone's question is, who are you going to prom with, Lauren? Who's going to propose to you?
Okay, I'm still trying to figure it out. I kind of.
She's got options, clearly.
I kind of do. I don't really want to go with someone from our school just because, I don't know, the guys in our grade, I just don't want there to be any drama or anything. And, there's no one that I would go with. I don't know. It would just be in, a friend way if I were to go with someone. But I think I'm probably going to go with my friend Madison's friend that doesn't go to my school so that, I don't know, it's just easier.
Have you met him?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah, and then his prom is actually this weekend, and I might be going to it, so we'll see.
What are you going to wear?
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. I have absolutely no clue, so we'll see if that works out, but...
Okay, well, now we have to find him on Instagram, everyone. I don't even know this guy's name, so...
I'm not telling you.
We'll be talking later about that, but very exciting. I remember all the prom drama. There was always drama, I feel like, but you know what? I don't remember any of the details, so that just goes to show it wasn't that important in the long run, but definitely at the moment it just seems like it's a big deal, you know?
Oh, I know, exactly. This one guy has asked every girl in my friend group to prom. He's just, yeah. And we're all like, no, you literally asked her and her and her.
That's really weird.
It's funny, but do you remember, the details of your prom? Who did you go with?
I went with my friend Greg, who went to OT, which is another school in Oakville, and there was a lot of drama because he and his friend, who one of my best friends went with, they both didn't get into prom because, wait, I didn't even go to, oh my gosh, I'm like now remembering, I didn't even go to prom at the school that, I don't even know if I should put this in, but I didn't go to the prom of the school that I originally went to because I left. If you remember,
Yeah.
I went to OT in grade 12, so one of my friends like had some drama with some girls that went to like the school that we originally went to, and then we didn't go to prom. Basically, we went to like the prom at the new school that we went to, but not the old school that we went to. So
okay,
there was
that
a lot of drama.
makes sense. That kind of
Yeah.
makes sense. So you went to the prom of the school that you actually went to in grade 12, not the school that you
Yes.
went to for the rest of high school, basically.
Yeah, but we had only gone to that school for like 3 months, so I really didn't feel like any association to the school at all. And we had also graduated in January, so I just like didn't feel like I really should go to prom. But then we were like, hey, maybe we should go. And I don't know, it wasn't like that great for me because I just felt like I didn't feel like any affiliation to the school or really the people there. I had like a few friends only, but it was fine.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that is a different experience. I forgot that you transferred for grade 12.
And then there was just a lot of drama. Like with that old school that I went to originally, there was like some girl drama. And you know what? I just remembered this now, but I hadn't thought about it since then. So it really didn't matter in the long run. But, at the time, it was like really annoying.
Oh, I'm sure. I know right now, like this year, all the guys are mad that the girls want to go with guys from other schools. They're like, why are you guys outsourcing?
I mean, I guess it's hard for them because then who are they going to go with?
Exactly. But I think, honestly, it'll end up being a bunch of kids that don't go to our school. Because I think the guys are also going to do the same thing where they bring girls from other schools. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. But
I'm sure it'll be fun, whatever happens. You just
Yeah.
have to, like, have your friends there, and then it's fun. Like, don't get too tied up with all the drama with dates and guys and all of that because, honestly, like I said, you don't really remember it anyways.
Exactly. And a lot of my friends aren't even going with dates just because it's easier and, like, you have to, I guess, you get to avoid all of the weirdness when you don't go with a guy. Like, you don't want to, I don't know. You don't want to go with someone that you're friends with and then have it make your friendship weird, I guess. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it, but
yeah,
it
it's
should
so
be
funny.
fun.
But no, it'll be fun if you just like hang out with your friends and have a good time for sure. Anything else going on in the life of Lauren?
Honestly, not really. I'm going back to school tonight, back to boarding school. I feel like, honestly, like the people that just see my TikToks of me in my boarding room are probably so confused because on the podcast, you guys get all of the details about like me coming home every weekend and then going back to boarding school. But I can only imagine how hard it would be to follow all of this if you didn't listen to the podcast.
Yeah, you guys get the inside scoop, so consider yourself lucky, I guess. But maybe people on TikTok think that you're in university.
They do. I get comments like that all the time that are from people asking why I'm in a dorm room because they thought I was a senior in high school. I'm like, I am. My school is just a little bit different. Yeah.
It's definitely different, but I feel like you're getting a good experience that kind of shows you what university is like, kind of foreshadowing to our topic for today. Living in a dorm room is obviously something that most people experience if they go off to school, so you're really getting that experience early.
Oh my gosh, I just had a thought.
What?
Okay, I don't remember if I've already said on the podcast, but I don't think I said for sure. So at the end of this week's podcast episode, maybe I should say where I'm going to university because I have to accept in a week from now. Like that's the final day.
May 1st, right, is the day that you need to tell.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have an idea, so please share it with us. Let's save it for the end so people have to stick around.
So if you stick around till the end of the episode, you'll hear where I'm officially going next year.
So exciting.
So exciting. Okay, now moving on to what's been going on in your life. Any updates?
Well, I went to Coachella. We did talk
Yes.
about this all last week, so if you guys want to hear more about like the day-to-day experience and everything, I had my friend Pia on the podcast last week who I went to Coachella with, and we gave the full rundown. We talked about our outfits. We talked about like the good and bad things about Coachella. Lauren, did you see the drama about Revolve Festival?
No.
Your TikTok For You page must be different than mine because I saw hundreds and hundreds of TikToks of girls talking about Revolve Festival and like what a mess it was. They called it like Fire Festival.
Oh,
that was
no.
a comparison.
What happened?
Okay, I'll give you a brief story just before we get into this topic of today's episode. But basically, people lined up for Revolve Festival for like 4 hours on Saturday, and there weren't enough buses to take people from the parking lot where you get the shuttle to the actual festival, because you can't just like drive into the festival. You have to take the shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have enough water. They didn't have enough security. People were like jumping over the barricades, running. So a bus would pull up. People would jump over the barricades and sprint towards the bus. And I didn't see any of this, but like people were like fighting each other and screaming. Like it was apparently really, really bad. So I didn't know this in the contract, but we were supposed to get there at 12 o'clock. Never saw that. So we pulled up at like 4 p.m. not knowing. And people had been waiting since 12 when they were supposed to get there. And my friend was like, we've been waiting for so long. Like, there's no point of you guys getting in line. Like, there's zero chance that we're getting in. Like, we're getting on the shuttle and getting in. So either we try to get into the festival by, like, driving up to the gate, or we just leave and go to Coachella. But we were in a tough situation because we had signed these contracts saying that we'll do, like, 6 posts, like, which is a lot of Instagram, TikTok, everything to do if you, like, don't actually go to the festival. Like, we would have had to, like, take photos on our, like, afterwards. I don't really know. So we're like, okay, let's just try to get in. And then if it doesn't work out, we'll have to, like, email them and tell them the situation, which I'm sure they were aware of because it was kind of a nightmare.
I'm sure they were.
We figured out where Revolve Festival was happening because one of my friends asked one of the VIP drivers, like, where are you taking these people? Like, they, like, drive the celebrities to Revolve Festival. So he told her. And he was like, you can try to get in. Like, they're not letting drive-ups, but, like, what do you have to lose, honestly?
Mm-hmm.
So we pull up in our Uber, and the police are blocking the entrance. They're like, yeah, there's no way you're coming in. And then my friend in the back, she's in law school, like, becoming a lawyer, and she's, like, not yelling, like, in a rude way, but she's, like, talking to the cop and, like, was so confident in herself. And eventually convinced them to let us in. So it actually worked out. But I was, like, in the back, like, oh, my God, I cannot believe this is happening. Like, I would have been like, okay, fine, we'll turn around. Like, if it was me.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, wait, you guys did talk about this last week, right?
Yeah, we told the whole story last week.
Okay. I heard a snippet of it when I was editing the YouTube video, but I haven't had a chance to listen to the full episode yet. But I just heard you guys talking about your lawyer friend who got you into somewhere. I didn't even hear where you were going, but that is so funny. And I mean, it sucks that that's like how it worked out. I'm sure like so many people were devastated, but was that their first time putting on like Revolve Festival? I know they normally have an event, right?
I think this year they made it a much bigger thing because they had Post Malone on Saturday and then Jack Harlow on Sunday. Because I did go 2019, but nobody really talked about the performances. Like, I honestly didn't even know that there was performers last time. And this year they were, like, fully advertising that Post Malone was going to be there and stuff. So I think a lot more people came. It was also the first Coachella after COVID. So people were, like, really excited. And then the third issue was that they sold tickets. So people would buy tickets and then run to the front of the line and jump over the barricades. So there was just a lot not going in their favor. Also, there was, like, no buses. And I don't know. There was a lot of drama. You should just find it on TikTok because there's, like, 1,000 videos about it.
Oh, my. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. That sounds crazy.
I know. But I'm such a rule follower. Like, there's zero chance that I would yell at a police officer or, like, argue with them. I'd be like, okay, fine, I'm turning around. Like, it stressed me out to even listen to this thing going on.
Oh, my gosh. No, I'm the same way. There's not a chance.
And then they were like, okay, fine, show us your contracts. And then none of us had service. So I'm, like, in my email trying to find my contract. Like, it was really bad. But somehow she convinced them. And we also saw someone that we knew, like someone who works for Revolve. And just luckily they were there. And they're like, yeah, they're fine. Like, let them in. Thank goodness, because it was a nightmare.
Huh. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that was that. But otherwise, Coachella was really fun. Definitely go listen to last week's episode if you guys want a full recap. You know, there's a few things I would do differently because I feel like I'm getting a little old for Coachella. Like, I found it to be extra treacherous this year. You know, there's a lot of walking and it's a very expensive weekend, which I didn't really remember. But otherwise, it was great.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe I went when I was so young. I was, like 13, maybe 14?
I was showing my friends the photos of you and like, was it Ruby? No, Nadia, right?
Nadia, yeah.
I was showing Pia the photos and I'm like, can you believe that Lauren went to Coachella at this age without parents? Like, I cannot believe my parents let her do that.
Me neither. But I guess
Crazy.
I went with Claire, so it was like, I don't know, they were watching us and stuff. Like, it worked out well, but it could have been a disaster.
That was probably like, they're probably like my age though. Like, it would be like me
That's
taking
true.
13-year-olds to Coachella.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're so right. So much could have gone wrong.
Crazy. Well, that's pretty much my only recap. Yeah, that's all I've been doing. I've been recovering since then. I have a bad headache still from Monday, so, that's how you know you're getting old.
Yep, I guess so. Any other updates since you've been back?
Nope, just working away, You know how it is.
Okay. Well, then let's get into the questions that were left by all of you guys, our listeners, on the, oh my gosh, I almost said Sister Diary, on the Call Your Friends Instagram. Maddie posted asking you all to leave university-related questions, and you delivered. So let's take a look.
All right, so let's get into the questions. I'm just looking through them. We got so many good questions. Let's see. Okay, this one can be for you, Lauren. How hard/easy are university applications really?
Okay. Well, I think it depends what schools you're applying to, because in Canada, the university applications are super easy. For most of them, you are just submitting your marks, so there isn't really much of an application. You have to pay to apply, and that's pretty much it. There are a few programs where you have to do supplementals. A lot of the universities that I applied to for business required supplementals because they're a bit more competitive. And for those, it honestly wasn't too bad. It was mostly just like 300 to 500 words. And it's all about you and your extracurriculars, which I think could be good because if your grades aren't the strongest and you have a lot of extracurriculars, or even if you feel like your grades are strong but your extracurriculars are a really important part of you and what you've been up to in high school, then it's a good opportunity to show that to admissions officers. So for me, I loved when schools had supplementals because it was a great place to talk about all of the social media stuff that I do. Otherwise, I didn't get to mention it. So I actually really liked that. That is kind of what the Canadian applications look like. The US ones, almost every school I applied to had supplementals, and they were all like required or mandatory. I think if you applied to fewer schools, it would have been a lot easier. But I applied to, I think, around 20 schools, and they all had essays, and they ranged from like a few hundred words to like 1,000 words or more, and they'd be broken up into different questions. It really varies from school to school, but most of them asked the same stuff that the Canadian ones did about your extracurriculars and your interests. Some of them asked why the university would be a good fit for you, so I had to do some research for those and learn about the program that I was applying to. But I feel like that's good to do anyway before you apply to a university. But yeah, for me it took a lot of time. I spent most of my winter break doing it, but if I had started earlier and planned ahead, I think it would have been very manageable. You're able to reuse a lot of the essays that you write because so many of the schools ask the same questions. So I think, I'm sure you've heard this, but start early. If you're applying to Common App schools, you'll have to submit a Common App essay that goes to every school you apply to. That one is especially important. So even if you just want to start working on that early, like when the school year starts, when your grade 12 senior year starts, I would get started on that so that you aren't doing what me and Maddie were, which was me writing my essays and then asking Maddie to look over them before I submit them, like the day that they're due.
It was pretty crazy. It seemed like you had so much to do, but probably because you were trying to do it all within like a 2-week period.
Yeah, people start so early, but I kind of got to the point where I had one day to dedicate to each school. So I would be working on an application that was due that night, and I would just be working on it all day.
Crazy. All right, next one. This is a great question and something I actually want to talk about when we get into the like discussion on like all my points that I have, my advice you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But this person asked, how to not let the newfound freedom rule you over drinking slash partying. I think this also applies to like freedom in general, like not having anyone to tell you to do your homework or go to class, or like telling you what foods to eat even, because university is really a free-for-all, and I think it's not discussed enough how much discipline, like self-discipline and maturity you need in order to like have a great experience at university, or else like she's saying those things can really affect you. So I don't know exactly like how to not let it rule you. I think it just has to be like a conscious choice, because you have to be aware that all these things are at play. Like you can always go out and drink. You can always eat pizza at 2 o'clock in the morning if you want to. It's like I don't even know how to. It's like Disney for adults. Like anything that you want, you can do. There's no rules. There's no parents. Your teachers don't care if you go to class. Like there's no attendance for the most part. So it's definitely something that requires a lot of maturity. And like, why do they not talk about that in grade 12?
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't really heard anything about that. Like people touch on how you will have more independence when you go to university. You'll have like greater freedom to make your own decision, and like you won't have your parents to tell you what to do. But no one talks about how you actually have to stay focused on your schoolwork and like your, I don't know, I guess like mental and physical health and all of that, when you have all of these other factors at play that are, I guess, trying to get you to not focus on those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it just comes back to remembering like why you're at school. Obviously, it's a great experience to like make friends and grow as a person and figure out who you really are. But also, you're there for school. Like it's university. You're there. You should be going to class. Honestly, for me, I didn't find it that hard because, as we've discussed, I'm a rule follower. So, like, I wanted to always go to class and do stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I just am good at following the rules if they're there. And I knew that that was why I was there. I also think that if I was paying so much money to go to university, like if I was going to a US school, it's obviously much more expensive than Canadian schools. And like I would personally feel like I needed to go to class because I know how expensive it is. I'm not sure if that's a factor for everyone. That's like kind of a personal thing, but that would be something that would definitely convince me to go to class, like even if I didn't want to go. I'm like, imagine how much money. You could probably break it down to like how much each class costs, and I'm sure it's insane. So
Yeah.
it just requires like emotional maturity, and I think it's kind of the point in your life where you realize that you're responsible for your own outcome. Like your parents aren't going to save you. You're an adult because you're 18 years old, I guess. You're technically an adult, and the outcome of your life is way more in your hands than it ever has been. So you can look at that in a way that's like empowering, that you can control how your life is going now, or it can totally like overwhelm you. And I think it's kind of just like an awareness and a choice thing.
Mm-hmm. I think something that hit me recently was that no matter how hard you worked in high school, no matter how good your grades were, once you go to university, you're starting fresh, and it's kind of your responsibility to make sure that you are successful in university. Like, I don't know, I've always had good grades in elementary and high school, whatever, but in university, that could all change. And it's like, it's in my power to make sure that it doesn't. So I don't know, that it is kind of overwhelming and stressful, but I think it's also just important to remember that you can do it. You just have to make sure that you have your priorities straight.
Mm-hmm. I think something that will set you apart, at least like I went to a Canadian university, so my experience is limited to that, but people definitely in first year like kind of messed around. Like they didn't care so much about school because everything was new and everything was so fun. So even just like showing up to class sets you apart. And that made me feel better because I was like, okay, I don't need to be like the smartest person in the room. I just need to go to class and like do my homework. It's not that hard. Like it's what you're used to in high school. You kind of just get used to like the people around you who are partying all the time. So if you're able to just like show up for yourself and, you know, do the things that you know you need to do, you'll be fine. You'll be on the right track. So it's not as overwhelming as it may seem. You just have to like know what, or I guess do what you know you need to do.
Right. How do you not let like what your friends are doing influence what you do?
I think this is also a personal thing because I never in my life have felt FOMO. I don't care what anyone else is doing, but I understand that's not the case for most people. Um, so I don't know. I think you just need to like figure out what you really want. And if what you really want is to do well in school, then you need to make choices that align with that. And it's totally like a personal choice in your own power to do so. You just have to, I think it requires like maturity, like we're saying.
Okay. Well,
I don't really know though.
yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it always goes back to discipline somehow.
It's true. But it kind of sets you up for the rest of your life. Like high school is a very sheltered time for a lot of people because your teachers are checking in on you and your parents are checking in on you. And university is kind of the opposite. Like nobody cares if you do your homework, if you show up, if you hand things in, if you get a 0. There's no like chasing you for papers or anything. Like you get a 0, move on. They don't care. So I think it actually sets you up much better for real life than like high school, because I feel like you're taken care of, which is fine because you're a kid in high school. But university is much more reflective of like the adult working world, where you don't really get second chances in the same way and people aren't like checking in on you all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, they do definitely baby you in high school. Like I mean, I guess my experience isn't the same as everyone's. I know you said that when you switched to a public school for grade 12, you found that they, I guess, babied you less there, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But
For
I
sure.
know my teachers are very like gentle with the way that they enforce deadlines and all of that.
Mhm. Yeah, so you need to realize in university, like, they don't care. You lose like 10% a day, no questions asked. They don't care. Even like if you miss an exam, you need to provide proof that like your immediate family member has died or like something very, very traumatic, or else you get a 0. Like, they don't care. They don't make excuses for people, which is kind of harsh, but way more what the real world is like, I think.
True. They're not gonna, let you retake the exam if you were at Coachella the weekend before and you accidentally missed your flight because you slept through your alarm, like our sister Darian.
That did happen to Darian, and they gave her a 0. So, see, you can ask her about the real world. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Let's see. How to choose what university to go to. Lauren, do you want to touch on this?
Oh my, this is a hard one for me because clearly when I applied to university, I had no clue, or else I wouldn't have applied to 25 schools. I think that if you're applying to US schools, one thing I wish I did was apply early. So maybe use the summer or the beginning of the school year to look into different schools and see which ones you're really interested in, which ones have the best like major for what you want to go into, I guess, and then apply to them early, because I know early decision, which is like when you say that if they accept you, you will 100% go there. I know that at many schools, you have a higher chance of getting in if you apply that way. But even applying early action, which is just basically submitting your application early with no assumption that you'll go there, I guess. Even doing that is nice because you get it out of the way early, and when everyone is stressing about university applications in January, you aren't. So I wish I had taken advantage of that. But to answer the actual question about deciding which school is right for you, there's a lot of factors to consider. For a lot of people, like the cost is very important, so you can apply for financial aid at a lot of schools, but if you don't get, like, if you aren't offered the financial aid package that you need, like that is a deciding factor for a lot of people. I think just kind of doing your research on what you want in a school and then finding out which schools have that and making sure that you don't lose sight of what is important to you and what you want in a school when you start applying. I don't know. That wasn't the best advice, but I think honestly it just goes back to doing research, trying to reach out to students that went to the school or going to the school so that you can get like a honest response and ask someone who was in your position a few years ago what they think, ask them for advice. I think that would be helpful. If you have guidance counselors at your school that you can talk to, they're a great resource as well. I know that my guidance counselor has been super helpful. But it all goes back to figuring out what you want and what the schools have.
For sure. I think also something to note is location. Like, do you want to be far away from home? Do you want to be driving distance? Do you want to be able to go home on weekends? I know I didn't really think I was going to go home that much, but then I ended up like really hating residence and I went home almost every weekend in second semester. So I think distance from home is something that you need to consider. And then all the other things that Lauren said, like cost is very important, especially in the US. I know going to a state school, if you're like living in that state versus an out of state school or a private school, makes a massive difference. What else? Like, not really where your friends are going, but like, do you know one person that's going to the school? That might be helpful. That might like make you feel a little bit more comfortable.
I was just going to add, I think that for some people, knowing a lot of people that go to the school might be like a great thing for you. Maybe you're excited to like know that you'll have other people there to figure things out with, or maybe you don't want that at all and you want to start fresh. And I think that could really influence your decision. Also, I talked a bit about like how strong the program is at the school that you're applying to, like your program. And I think also in that is like what classes you'd be taking and what opportunities would be available to you after graduation, because ultimately a big reason, like the main reason that you're going to university or college is to get a job after graduation. So looking into how the school prepares you for that is really important.
Yeah, I found it always so interesting to look at what the actual course descriptions were. Like, what are the mandatory classes in first year? What are you going to be learning? Do you find that interesting? Because the courses all have like cool names, but what are you actually going to be learning in like the everyday, you know, day to day of the course? And also, what are the assessments? Because I'm really good at writing essays. I don't like multiple choice, so I always did like essay type exams or like courses that had big essay. What is it called? Like assessments? What is it called at the end of the year? Like an essay when it's like worth 50% of your grade
Like
instead of an exam. Summative, yeah, that's what I prefer over an exam for sure. But I know a lot of people hate essays, so it just depends what you're looking for. But you can find that all usually on the school's website, so it's super helpful.
Yeah, and in the US, depending on the school, some of them have a lot of like core requirements. Like they have core curriculums at some schools, which means that you have a lot of required courses. And at other schools, you have a lot of electives. So if that's more appealing to you, maybe you would want to go to a school that offers a lot of electives. But I think that the only way to figure out any of this is through research. So I just suggest getting started early and looking into all of the things that Maddie and I mentioned. Okay, so this episode was so long that we actually had to split it into two. So this week's episode will be continued next Friday, and we will talk more about university then. See ya!